This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Feisty, fearless, and fair. She's an Emmy-winning journalist from the White House to war zones, telling all sides of the story. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
I know your name is Rita, 'cause your perfume is smelling sweet. Since when I saw you down on the floor. Guitar.
Well, the border will undeniably be front row and center tomorrow night. By the way, even if the moderators don't want to make it front row and center, you can bet that President Trump will definitely tune into that. And he will definitely focus on the fact that there is probably not a more stark contrast than the way these two men have handled national security and international security for that matter. A case in point, and I think I saw this ad today, and I wanted to play it for you so you could hear it. This is an ad. It is not by President Trump, but by a PAC, one of these political action committees that indeed, is supportive of President Trump and his positions. And it is downright searing and is blistering to Joe Biden's record on the border. And it also talks a lot about some of these horrible, high-profile murders that have taken place of American women, because I believe, and I think anybody with common sense believes, President Joe Biden's reckless and derelict border policies. When I think about what he has done to our country because of his reckless open border, turning a blind eye to the fact that our border is so wide open, to the fact that there's a new report out that the Department of Homeland Security just in the last few weeks has flagged more than 400 migrants with possible terror ties to ISIS, and that at least 50 of them are roaming around this country and they don't know where they are. That just epitomizes how dangerous it is to have a border where so many millions upon millions are coming at such a rapid pace that you simply cannot vet them. And there doesn't seem to be a will. The only will I'm seeing is that this president and his Homeland Security Secretary, who had the audacity to look at the American public in the eye today. I got so angry when I saw Alejandro Mayorkas literally say, the president's doing all he can to secure the border. The president's doing everything he can. What are you talking about, people? And it was reporters from all different networks finally waking up and having some epiphany because they see the numbers like we all do. And it is downright frightening. And I've always said this, if there was ever a ground to impeach President Biden, I'm not saying you should, but if there ever was a ground, it would be on the open border. He has been downright derelict in his handling of the border. It has been downright dangerous for American society and for the world. There is not a single country right now in the world that would say, come one, come all. And once you get here, maybe we'll be lucky enough to figure out if you had a criminal history. And most of the time, we definitely won't know. And you'll already be in the country before we even figure any of that out, or before you get arrested in the country. And guess what? You'll just be able to morph into the United States and maybe plan something in a sleeper cell that will change the course forever in America. That's basically what has happened as a result of this president and those who have been working for him under him, like Alejandro Mayorkas. And he had the audacity today to sit there and say, this president's doing all he can. And when reporters were asking about all of these various terrorist suspects that have crossed the border by record numbers, he seemed offended. He seemed upset at reporters. Like, what are you talking about? Well, we're talking about the numbers that are the reality. And no American president and no representative of an American administration should feel good about it. And for some reason, this administration is arrogant and they're reckless, and it's really frightening. And I get so angry every time I see Mayorkas. You know, I don't want to buy a new TV set, but I want to kick it in. I want to kick it in. I want to throw a tomato at it because I cannot believe that he's actually spewing so much false rhetoric to the American public. He's lying through his teeth, and it's shameful. And it's really, really scary. And here is this ad that I mentioned to you by a super PAC that is out there. And they put out this ad that talks about Joe Biden's open border. And he also, in this ad, it reflects on these horrible crimes of these American women that have lost their lives of late. That's just a few of those who have been victim to a wide open southern border and the violence and these criminals that have crossed our borders in record numbers. Listen to this ad.
It just keeps happening. Laken Riley wasn't the first, and in Joe Biden's America, sadly, she won't be the last.
Also this morning, a major break in the murder case of a Maryland mother. The suspect was in this country illegally. He's expected to be charged in the murder and rape of Rachel Morin.
Illegal immigrant Victor Hernandez. He was wanted for murder, but Biden let him in.
Entered the country illegally after reportedly murdering a young woman in El Salvador.
He assaulted a 9-year-old girl and her mother at a home in Los Angeles.
Now, he's charged with raping and beating Rachel Morin, mother of 5, to death. Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, and countless others. Joe Biden's open border, a nightmare for American women.
Sadly, that is spot on. That is so incredibly powerful. Let's see how Joe Biden could combat that kind of rhetoric, hopefully coming from President Trump tomorrow, if the moderators let him get a word in about the southern border. And here is Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick talking about who he believes is responsible for that wide open border.
Look, if only 1 or 2 or 3% of the 10 to 12 million who have come in under Biden are these animal criminals, gang members, etc., terrorists, that's 200,000 to 300,000 of the worst people on planet Earth who are in this country. And if I were the president tomorrow night, President Trump, I would ask President Biden, can you tell me who Rachel Morin is? Can you tell me who Jocelyn Nungary is? Mm-hmm. Can you tell me who Laken Riley is? And Joe Biden has a choice. He could either say, yes, there are 3 people who should be alive today, except for my border policies, or I don't know who they are, which shows you who this guy is. And for America to understand this, understand that this little girl was grabbed allegedly, we have them on film, but allegedly until the trial comes, dragged under a bridge, her ankles were tied, her hands were tied behind her back. She was stripped below the waist, likely sexually attacked. The lab tests are not in yet. She bit one of them in the arm fighting back, this little girl. She was tortured, she was strangled, and she was thrown in the river like a rag doll. Now I want America to wake up. This can come to your wife, your daughter, your sister, your grandmother. It can happen to you. There are animals roaming this country today because of Joe Biden. And these 3 women I just named would all be alive today, if it weren't for Joe Biden. The blood is on his hands.
The blood is on Joe Biden's hands. But listen to what Mayorkas, the Homeland Security Secretary, who decided to pay a visit to the border, one of the few that he has done since he has taken his position. He comes out today. The press is asking about all these recent cases that are just horrible. You heard about them. And what's happened to these beautiful young women. It's shameful. And every single time, it's staggering to hear the details. And in the case of Jocelyn Nungary, the 12-year-old girl from Houston, both of the guys had an ankle bracelet on. Isn't that interesting? One of them had an ankle bracelet when he crossed the border, and after a little bit of time, they let him go, saying he was abiding by whatever the rules were. They had no idea if he had a criminal history. I bet you dimes to donuts he did, because you don't suddenly just rape and murder somebody, possibly rape, we don't know yet, and allegedly murdered, right? But he's been charged. You don't just suddenly do something like that to somebody. So clearly there's criminal history in his background. And then obviously the other guy, same thing, who did it to beautiful Jocelyn Nungari. The other one had an ankle bracelet actually at the time of the murder and then took it off afterwards. So the system isn't working. So Mayorkas gets asked the question today about all of these cases. And what is President Biden doing? And don't you and this administration in general bear some responsibility? The answer is yes, yes, and yes. And listen to what he had to say.
The safety and security of the American public is indeed our highest priority. We screen and vet individuals when we encounter them. If we learn of derogatory information subsequently, later in the process, then we take enforcement action accordingly. The individual who's responsible for a heinous criminal act is the criminal, and we need to bring the full force of the law to bear on that criminal.
The person who's responsible is the criminal. Of course, the criminals are responsible. But if you say, hey, come on over here, Johnny, come on over. I don't care what your background is. Come on through. Don't worry if you have a criminal history. Come on through. Maybe we'll figure it out. Maybe we won't. And we'll give you all these freebies. Come one, come all. And you'll just get a slap on the wrist if you get caught. Maybe you do bear some responsibility. I'm sorry. This administration does. It bears incredible responsibility. And this is just the beginning, sadly, because we will feel the effects of an open border, even if it's shut down tomorrow, for generations to come. Because how are you going to track down millions upon millions of people that you just have no idea? There's a lot of great people that I'm sure have come through. But even if you have 1% that are criminals, that is still thousands upon thousands upon thousands. Just do the math when you're dealing with anywhere from 10 to 20 million. Just a little drop in the bucket in terms of percentage is enough to wreak havoc on our great country. And I don't believe that safety and security of America is their highest priority, because if it was, they would shut it down day one. And they did not. And now they're trying to look at this executive order Joe Biden did a few days ago. Isn't it great? It's reducing it a little bit. Well, apparently people on the border are saying, no, it isn't reducing it. They're flying them in. They're having them come in on the app so they don't get listed as border crossers in certain sectors. So it's all one big, gross shell game. And that is really distasteful and despicable. And what it also shows that if Joe Biden really wanted to seal the border, he could, but he doesn't want to, and nor does his mouthpiece, Alejandro Mayorkas. We're going to take your calls when we come back. 1-800-848-9222. And you're listening to The Rita Cosby Show. And you can tell I am fired up tonight.
You're listening to The Rita Cosby Show.
This is Greg Kelly for Priority Gold. What does it mean to be America's precious metals dealer? It means that you're in touch with the hearts and minds of those who love this country, value our freedom, and want to protect the future. Priority Gold is that precious metals dealer. They've helped thousands of Americans back their retirement with solid gold and silver. Call Priority Gold at 888-506-6439. Receive free shipping, free storage, a free investment guide, and one of the best purchase experiences in the industry. Call now or go to PriorityGold.com.
Get the most out of your summer. Take advantage of Invite Health's Independence Day sale. Buy any Invite Health product at suggested retail and get the second bottle free. Call us now to order by phone at 800-463-7575. That's 800-463-7575. Get your BOGO on Beauty Collagen Gummies today for healthy summertime skin. Mention WABC when you call 800-463-7575. That's 800-463-7575.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Baker's, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Baker's worth it every time. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And by the way, that searing ad that we played for you just a little bit ago, where Biden is blistered over the illegal migrant murders that have taken place of beautiful American women, many of them as young as 12, the case of Jocelyn Nungari in Houston. Well, that ad is apparently being bought, as we mentioned, by this conservative nonprofit. It's called Building America's Future. They tweeted it out. That's why we shared it there with you guys. But apparently they have also dropped a pretty penny, I'm sure, because that ad that is blistering, as you just heard, is going to be broadcast twice to swing state viewers in some of the states, like Minnesota, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, a number of those states, swing states voters, where obviously a lot of times the election hinges on, during CNN's Thursday night debate. So whether the moderators get to the point or not, viewers who are going to be watching the debate, remember there are 2 commercial breaks in the debate, and apparently it's going to be broadcast twice to those in the swing states. So you guys will see it if you're there in the swing states on Thursday night in the debate, of course, between Trump and Biden. So that will certainly make a powerful point. Joe Biden's going to be like, what? And then, let's go to a commercial break. And then that ad that's blistering is going to be playing, and obviously has a very powerful, important message behind it, and a very serious question of what is Joe Biden doing, and clearly what he is not doing at our southern border to keep us safe. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Jacqueline. Your thoughts, Jacqueline, about all this.
There's so much to say about this, Rita. I'll be very concise, and I'll go through it as quickly as I can. President Trump knows what he needs to say regarding the border and the number of fentanyl deaths, especially the number of women and little girls who've been brutally attacked, raped, and murdered. He does need to be nice and calm, yet assertive. And despite what KGP said, Joe Biden is no Steve Austin. He's no $6 million man. But what Robert from Brooklyn stated is actually correct. All of that is to be expected. Joe Biden's going to be gaslighting. That's what they teach him to do, straight out of the Communist Manifesto. And when they cut President Trump off and interrupt him and prevent him from saying what he wants to say, he needs to look directly into the camera and say to the American voters, this proves for all to see once again the mainstream media bias against me, and this is not a debate. This is a 1-hour public address by Joe Biden. And as far as Tapper and Bash, they're not moderators. They're facilitators and enablers of Joe Biden. Tapper's going to be tapping his fingers on the desk in a display of frustration, and Bash will be bashing President Trump. But if Joe Biden can speak well, it doesn't matter, because just like Obama, the master orator, and Hillary Clinton, he, she, and they, all they ever said was lies to the public in their nice, calm, cool, and collected manner. But all it amounts to is a pile of elephant poop. And as they always say, when Joe Biden's mouth is moving, he's lying.
Well, here's the catch. And by the way, I hear what you're saying, because President Trump needs to change that moment, and he needs to say, you know what you just saw is exactly why this whole thing is a one big fix against me, just like what's happening with the lawfare in the courts, just what's happening here, just what's happening there. Remember, he's supposed to have 1 minute uninterrupted. What I'll be watching to see, will the moderators interrupt him left and right? He's got to fight back.
Rita Cosby is on.
This is actually the perfect song, Talking Away, because that's what Alejandro Mayorkas was doing today. Talk, 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 but lie, 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 lie. How could he say with a straight face that President Biden thinks the border is secure, that he takes safety and security as first and foremost at our U.S. border? To me, that's going to be a huge issue at the debate tomorrow night. And Alejandro Mayorkas, what I think really bothered me today, more than anything, and you can tell this has really gotten under my skin today, I was so angry because he seems so nonchalant and so unaffected by all of these recent cases of these women who have been brutalized and in many cases killed by these savages. And also all of these terrorists, these numbers of terrorists that have crossed into our country. He just seemed like, no, we've got this under control. There was nothing that he said that gave me a sense of confidence that he or anybody in the administration in leadership positions in the Biden administration really care about what's going on to our country as a result of a wide open border and these rising horrible migrant crimes. They just seemed unaffected, unconcerned, cold, disconnected, and nonchalant. And that's really frightening when you hear from the FBI director and also the former CIA director and a lot of others who are speaking out now saying that we're on the precipice of potentially a 9/11 or worse, that the threat level is that high because of so many that have crossed the border that are on the terrorist watch list and many, many thousands that we just have no clue about. That's really scary stuff because the rhetoric is not just words. It's actually downright intelligence that they are seeing something, that something may be in the works, some major threats to our country. And then you get this completely tone-deaf, disconnected answer from people like Alejandro Mayorkas, and we'll probably get the same tomorrow from Joe Biden. And here is Mayorkas today. Listen to what he said when he was asked, what are you doing to vet these people? What are you doing to check? And he basically said, well, you know, if people are found in the country and we find out at some point that they did something, well, then we deport them. Next question. It was like, oh, no big deal. No big deal. It's only our country and our sovereignty and our security. Listen to just how unaffected he seems. Take a listen to what he said when he was asked, what are you going to do? What are you doing to check these people crossing the border?
Our agents and officers, not only in the United States Border Patrol, but in U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services across the enforcement agencies and the humanitarian relief agencies that are part of the Department of Homeland Security are well trained in identifying individuals who manifest fear, whether they vocalize that manifestation or whether there are signs physically of fear. They are well trained and expert. They follow the guidelines that we have provided to them. Individual who does not establish a basis to remain in the United States will in fact be removed. We are enforcing the law.
We are enforcing the law. Does that sound like potentially somebody who is concerned? Did it sound like, yeah, we're enforcing the law? We're trying to follow up with that. Does that really sound to you like somebody who seems completely all in and caring about our security? Does that seem like that? It doesn't seem like that to me. He just seemed like, yeah, we're sort of, keeping an eye on things. Nothing to worry about. No big deal. That to me is downright frightening. And when I heard that, he just seemed like I could care less. He didn't even mention the names of these women. Just said, yeah, of course, we feel bad for the families. Next question. Does that sound like somebody who really is concerned about our border and concerned about these families? No. And that's really sad. Here's Tom Homan, former ICE director. This is what he had to say earlier today on Katz and Cosby. Take a listen. This is cut 18. And this is where he said that he believes Alejandro Mayorkas is lying.
If his lips are moving, he's lying. Just like he claimed the border's been secure for 3.5 years. And it wasn't. So when we talk today about everybody they counter is vetted, the problem is we need a reporter to ask him, well, can you explain the vetting process, please? Because if he's honest American people, the vetting process is insufficient. I said this 1,000 times. We only vet them against information that's available to us, like NCIC, III state systems. Most countries don't share criminal information with us. A lot of these countries don't even have a system like NCIC. And does he really think China, Russia, Syria, Turkey, Iran, any of these countries share national security information with us? Of course they don't. So when he says vetting them, he needs to explain the insufficient vetting process, because we proved we got just arrested 8 people associated with ISIS that they vetted and released. We have men, raping and killing women across the United States. They were released after they were so-called vetted. So the vetting procedure doesn't work. The only way you can guarantee that this country is safe is to secure the border and catch and release, put the Remain in Mexico program back in.
Yeah, you heard what he said. He believes Mayorkas is lying, and it's a smokescreen to the American public, and a very dangerous game that this administration is playing. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Stan in Forest Hill. Stan, your thoughts about the debate and all of these huge issues.
First of all, I'm not for this format. You know what's going to be needed tomorrow night? Lip readers.
Yeah, when they want to interrupt.
I mean, when they push the button and you can't hear. What did he say? You're going to need a lip reader. Forget about having O'Reilly, and you need a lip reader.
Yeah,
there.
Good point. But, you're right.
No, seriously, I mean, because I looked at it today like you did on CNN to see both of those guys doing it, and I'm saying, what the hell's going on here? Let them talk, and that's it. But they got this, press this button. Somebody might get electrocuted. Everyone else wants to. I mean,
they'll be like, give me the mic.
Keystone Cops running the show. I mean, anyway. But seriously.
You know why? Because Joe Biden doesn't want a real debate.
Enough of that. Let's get to the real point.
You know what, Stan? Hang on. No. You wait a moment. Because you know what? The reason the American public is not getting a real debate is because Joe Biden doesn't want a real debate. Because if he wanted a real debate, he would have had an unfettered debate, a real debate where they could talk over each other. It could be extemporaneous. And then maybe we could see how they could really think on their feet. But instead, Joe Biden wants it manicured. He wants his hand held. He wants maybe a shot in the tuchus.
Get real,
and he wants all of these things.
Stop with the garbage. Let's get to it.
Stan,
these are the questions.
Stan, hang on. No. I am not. No. You wait a minute. You wait a minute, because guess what? The truth is, this president doesn't have the guts to do a real debate with President Trump. That's the reality, and that's a disservice to the American public. No matter where you are on the political aisle, if you're a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, I don't care what you are, you deserve to hear from our president, and he deserves to do a real debate. But this president will not allow it and is micromanaging every step of the way, and President Trump has had the guts to accept it. Unfair terms. He has two moderators who are against him. He has two moderators who are against him, and he has Joe Biden who won't even let him interrupt him. And he wants to run the country again. This president wants to run the country for 4 more years, and he can't even handle a real debate. Bravo to President Trump for accepting those conditions. Go ahead, Stan.
What? Oh, are you finished?
I am, because you should be as angry as I am.
For the last 2 hours, we've heard only on one side.
Yeah, because guess what? We'd like to hear the truth. So go ahead.
All lies, Rita. All lies.
You sound like Joe Biden. Go ahead.
Let's get down to the questions that need to be asked about our friend, Mr. Trump. Tell me something, Mr. Trump. You signed to get out of Afghanistan. You did. You're the one that lost that war. Nobody else. How dare you blame President Biden? Why did you sign a treaty to get out? That's the first question. The second question is, why did you tell your vice president to do something about the vote in the House? Why did you talk to him and try to get him to do something when you knew he couldn't do it and it was against the law? Why did you do that, Mr. Trump? Of course, you don't want these questions asked. Why is it?
Actually, by the way, Stan, hang on. No, Stan, I want to say to you, those are all good questions, and he has easy answers for them. Go ahead.
One more. I know you got a good time. One more. Why, excuse me, Mr. Trump, why did you call you the Attorney General of Atlanta? Find me more votes. Give me a break. This guy is a liar. He's a traitor. He doesn't love this country, and that's what Joe Biden has to say to him, right to his face. And he may say it, he may not say it. But if it was me, I wouldn't hesitate for a minute to tell this guy off. And that's what President Biden has to do.
You done? Stan, you done? Okay, so let me, if I'm just going to play devil's advocate on the other side, if I were Trump, I would say, yes, I had agreed to certain conditions because we don't want an endless war. Those conditions weren't met, and I never would have pulled out if I were president. I never would have left Americans and our allies high and dry. On January 6th, to your question about President Trump asking Vice President Pence, guess what? Some of my attorneys were telling me that there were some serious questions about the whole issues. And I think as president, things should be looked into, that elections overall should be free, should be fair, and everybody should do what they can to make sure they feel good about the elections. Third, you talked about the find the votes. We've had Professor Dershowitz on and a number of others. Professor Dershowitz said, and many legal scholars, he didn't say create the votes. He said find the votes. If you listen to the audio there, find the votes. In other words, he could say, I believe they were there. They just needed to be included. And that's what it is. There are a lot of answers. And then I would go, you know what, Joe Biden, let's start talking about Hunter. Let's talk about the money. Let's talk about what you're doing to the border. Let's talk about what you're doing to the economy. Let's talk about what you're doing to the American public, as opposed to this other stuff. And also, then I turn around and say to Jake Tapper, Jake, I have a question. Did you really mean it when you called me Hitler? What do you think of that, Stan? You're a Jewish guy. What do you think of him being
Rita,
called Hitler? You think Rita, that's a nice analogy?
Rita, I called him Hitler, Rita.
Well, shame on you, too. Shame on you, too.
Rita. That's what it's going to be.
Shame on you, too. Shame on you, too. Shame on you, too.
Country if they elect them.
Well, let me play Jake Tapper, because he seems to be in the same kit and caboodle as you. Here's Jake Tapper, famously calling Trump Hitler, and he's going to be one of the moderators tomorrow night. Maybe you should be one of the moderators, Stan, because you seem like you're just equally fair with him. Here it is.
The dehumanizing rhetoric of Adolf Hitler is once again alive and well on a national political stage. If you were to open up a copy of Hitler's Mein Kampf, you would find the Nazi leader describing the mixing of non-Germans with Germans as poisoning. The Jew, Hitler wrote, quote, poisons the blood of others. There's really no other way to say it. Donald Trump's language mirrors this directly.
Donald Trump's language mirrors this directly. That is shameful. And that's who Donald Trump is up against. These people who orange man bad, like Stan. So, Stan, hopefully your eyes will open, your ears will open, and I hope you'll be tuning in tomorrow night. And I can't wait to hear what you think tomorrow night of your wonderful uniter-in-chief, Joe Biden. If he's so united in kumbaya, I'll be curious to see if he does that tomorrow night. Stan, thank you. Look forward to your response tomorrow night. I'm sure it will be a doozy. And everybody now to our Support Our Heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And now to our Support Our Heroes segment. This is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment, where we get to honor our great military and their family with a really powerful story from Bryan, Texas, where nearly 8 decades after his burial in a cemetery there, Private First Class Henry Weiss's story of sacrifice and service is being honored all over again. Documents, including a Purple Heart certificate, a letter from Franklin D. Roosevelt, and commendations from the state of Texas have suddenly resurfaced, bringing to light the legacy of this World War II veteran. These artifacts that were once lost somehow found their ways into the hands of another veteran and a retired postmaster. The postmaster, whose name is Lonnie Green, says it's been a great journey just being able to touch these artifacts. And again, by God's grace, get it to where they need to go. Under the care of the County Veterans Service, these historical treasures are now serving as a poignant reminder of the enduring camaraderie among servicemen and servicewomen. And someone with the Veterans Service Office said that her office and the county are working together to make sure they can spotlight this and let people know of Private Weiss's life, his service, and also of his family's service. What a beautiful, beautiful story. And thank goodness this veteran's legacy is coming back anew now, 80 years almost later after he has passed. And great that at least his family also knows of his incredible service to our country. And everybody support America's military and their first responder heroes. Donate just $11 a month to the great Tunnel to Towers Foundation. They do so much incredible good. They do so many things to help military members, their families, and again, our great first responders who do so much to protect all of us. Be sure to check out the Tunnel to Towers Foundation at T2T.org, T2T.org.
You're listening to The Rita Cosby Show. It's The Rita Cosby Show.
Sun beat down, I had the radio on, I was driving.
And by the way, everybody, many of you know Matt Blaze. It is his birthday in a matter of moments. He is our great executive producer. This is a true team effort here on The Rita Cosby Show. He also helped me with my Gracie winning entry. So he's an award-winning executive producer, not just a great guy and super talented too. But we wish you a happy birthday. We love you, Matt. Matt, you got to say hi to everybody. Come on.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you so much.
See that great voice. Look at that, pleasure. Guys. We love you.
Thank you for the birthday wish.
We love you. Happy birthday, my friend. We love you. And let's go to your calls, everybody. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Joaquin. Line 1. Joaquin, your thoughts about the debate.
Rita, I have to straighten out that useful idiot Stan, okay? We have a base in Cuba. We don't have troops in Cuba, but we have a base, Guantanamo Bay. And Trump was not going to surrender Bagram Air Force Base. It's a very strategic location. I looked up a map one time, and its proximity to China, Pakistan.
Joaquin, I've been to Bagram. I flew into Bagram in 2005. So I know Bagram very well, and giving up Bagram was one of the biggest catastrophic mistakes. I agree with you. It was pivotal, and it left us without eyes and ears on the ground. And every general that testified under oath, Joaquin, said, keep it. Even Biden's guys said, keep it. That's how, even his people said it. And he didn't keep it. He decided unilaterally to pull out. Real quick, do you think tomorrow that a vice president may be named his running mate for President Trump? Because there's word he might have this dramatic moment in the debate. It's the Super Bowl audience, Super Bowl size for sure. Do you think he's going to name a VP tomorrow? Maybe even right before you go to commercial break. Hey, one more thing. What do you think?
Yes, I do. And I think it's going to be Vivek Ramaswamy, simply because there's a lot of useful idiots that just don't see what's wrong. And I think that Vivek Ramaswamy will bring the young vote in.
Yeah, so and by the way, he's feisty too. Vivek is feisty. I mean, he's got a lot of good people to pick from. I think he may do it.